Welcome back to Fast Market here on the TD Ameritrade Network. I'm Tom White, joined by my co-host Kevin Hinks. But let's bring in our next guest for our cash tag segment. That's going to be Landon Swan, co-founder of LikeFolio. Welcome back to the show and Happy New Year, Landon.
Happy New Year, guys. It's going to be a great one.
It is. 2023 is going to be better than 2022. I don't guarantee anything.
Yeah, whoa, hold on. Censors, get ready.
All right, so Southwest Airlines wanted to discuss this after their debacle last week. Cancellations across the board. You just saw it on the every news station had something about Southwest, people at airports stranded, their baggage is lost. I mean, what kind of data are you seeing? Do you guys have data on the holiday season for them? Because I'm guessing it can't be good.
No, actually, a good guess, Tom. If if we look at the cancellation or just people talking about Southwest, the positive versus negative, the consumer happiness mentions, it is an absolutely incredible chart because before this, everything scales as far as the y-axis goes, and before this, they had a normal amount of mentions that looked kind of, normal, but they had a monster drop off. In fact, you can see versus the other airlines here, down 13 points just in a very short amount of time. Actually, if you go back a little bit further, they're down anywhere between 20 and 30 points, depending on where you set your parameters on happiness, which is a huge, huge drop. I mean, they're down to 35% happiness. Which just, to put things in perspective, they are slightly above Spirit Airlines, which is kind of our benchmark for worst happiness company. But they're lower than Allegiant, for example. They're lower than all the rest. So they absolutely got hammered on this. They canceled 70% of their flights, while the other airlines canceled. I think Delta was 9%, American was less than 1%, United was 5%. So, it affected every airline, but Southwest, it just crippled. I mean, it showed off their antiquated system. And, I actually read a very interesting thread on this on Twitter of some of the frontline employees, how they've been sort of pleading with management for 20 years to update their systems. Ever since the founder, Herb Keller, left, they've moved more towards a finance-oriented CEO rather than an operations-oriented CEO. And the stock price has done well, but the employees were begging them, saying, look, we are setting ourselves up for failure. So this is a problem a long time in the making. And it's just a shame because they've done a good job other than this, but just to ignore your employees telling you, hey, something could happen here, and then you ruin so many people's holiday and just crush your goodwill with employees or with customers is just terrible. So really sad to see it for this company. Hopefully they can bounce back, but yeah, the data has been incredibly negative, obviously. And when you look at the spike in negative mentions versus the history, I mean, you can see here that red spike, it flattens the y-axis for all the other ones. I mean, they had a lot of data before this. People were talking positive and negative before this, but when you have to include that spike, it squashes the y-axis so much that you just can't even see any mentions before that. And you can see a monster drop here, about 30 points, as I was talking about, on the week before Christmas until now, or to the low point was even worse. But huge negative incoming mentions about Southwest. And what's interesting is it looks like all of the other airlines sort of benefited a little bit, but Delta is the one who benefited the most. So they had an increase, as that last graphic showed, of about 3 points on happiness. American had an increase of about 2 points. United was flat. So Delta grabbed, I think, more customers, or at least more customer goodwill off of this fiasco by Southwest. So I think they're the ones that are coming out looking the best out of this, and obviously Southwest is coming out looking very, very bad.
Landon, between December 22nd and January 1st, Southwest canceled 15,800 flights. That's not seats, Landon. That's flights. 37% of their flights got canceled. And you would think it'd be an industry problem, but no. All the other airlines weren't nearly as bad as Southwest, so this was a major breakdown. Their CEO came out and said, oh, we'll move forward with lessons learned. Really? Lessons learned? That's what you're going to take from this? So, he came on the air and apologized on time that they bought and did all the right things. But Landon, this is a disaster for that airline that everyone thought was the most dependable and had the highest ratings in the U.S. Landon, it is now. It's going to take a while. I believe that all these airlines will come back because nothing crashed. It was just a weather-related and poor planning. But Landon, this is a bad black eye.
It is a huge black eye. And you know what stinks? It's this CEO that just came in. He just came in not too long ago. And I think that it was more of an inherited problem. He is more focused on operations, but he stepped into the hot seat on this one. And it's just a shame because the lesson learned, that's pretty bad language. That's like startup language, honestly. I mean, that's when you've got 5 or 10 employees and you mess up and you go, okay, moving forward, we're going to change things. But these large companies are very risk adverse. You've got to be running through all kinds of drills, like what happens in this scenario, what happens in that scenario. And a winter storm in winter is not an unheard of thing.
Exactly.
It should be something that they could have planned for. Everyone else was ready for it. I don't think it was purely because they're point to point and everyone has this hub and spoke system. I think it was more technology. I think that the point to point maybe would have hurt them a little worse than some others, but not to the tune of these numbers that we're looking at. I mean, you mentioned 30 or 35% cancellation. On December 26th, they canceled 70% of their flights. Ugh. So it's just, that's the day after Christmas to so many holiday flights. Unbelievable. And, I flew actually right around that time. I didn't fly Southwest, thank goodness. But I noticed I had to do a last-minute flight around the holidays during this, and the prices were unbelievable. I mean, the demand flow over from people who canceled Southwest, they went into these other airlines. That moved the prices. I think it was 3x normal holiday pricing. So it was unbelievable. And all the other airlines really delivered where Southwest fell flat. So this is going to be a blemish on their customer service and their customer goodwill for quite a while. I think people are always going to wonder next time they're booking a flight in winter, maybe we should just book with Delta or American or United, because remember last year, the year before, when Southwest canceled all those flights, they can't handle a winter storm. That's going to be in the back of people's minds for years to come.
Yeah, the capacity issues, because they have that point-to-point as opposed to the hub, makes it difficult anytime there's bad weather. But Landon, they don't have earnings for about 3.5 weeks or so on this, and your year-over-year moving average flight cancellations up over 120%, air travel price sensitivities up. We've all known that since the summer when they peaked out. But if you had an earnings score for Southwest, I'm guessing it's going to be negative, but what would it be?
I hate to say it, Tom, but I don't have an earnings score for them. Kind of, I don't want to use the word, I don't want to say they broke our model, but all the cancellations that came in, we've got to recalibrate a little bit, because it just absolutely was an unbelievable amount of mentions that we're still trying to figure out as far as the impact to the score. Definitely negative, but I can tell you among the others, again, Delta is the winner. They'd be plus 17 right now. The other two are slightly negative besides Southwest. But Southwest, because of the influx and the number of standard deviations away from the normal, is just, we've never seen a moment like this for this company, or really hardly any company. So I don't have an earnings score for you, unfortunately. But I agree. I'm safe to say it's negative.
Okay, but real quick here, Landon, if you could give me, when you have things like this that happen in airlines, right? This has happened over history, right? Where one of the airlines screws up, and they're under the gun basically for a set period of time. Can Southwest get through this based on what the data that you've seen from some of the negativity?
I think they can, honestly. I think that as long as they update their systems, and they're very public about that, and they give people the confidence that it's not going to happen again, and it doesn't happen again, especially this winter. I mean, that would be unbelievable. But they've got to get that updated very quickly, be public about it, and it just can't happen again. The only thing that really hesitates me saying, or gives me pause to say that, maybe they're a great buy now. They're 10% off since this happened, basically, their stock is, and the other stocks are flat. The other airlines are flat. I wouldn't say that yet, because they're still not at 52-week lows. I mean, this is buying here would be catching a falling knife, in my opinion. I think you got to wait and let the dust settle a little bit more and make sure that they're actually going to handle this problem and make sure we get through winter without another catastrophic miss for them. So I would stay away from Southwest at least for the next, say, 3 or 4 months. Let the warm weather come in, get rid of that, and hopefully at that point they've already addressed the technology issues and updated. So at that point, I might be more confident to go bullish on them, but right now I'm staying away.
Yeah, and definitely demand probably helped them a little bit at this time, because if there was just normal demand as opposed to what we've seen post-pandemic, maybe it would hurt them even more. All right, great stuff as always, Landon. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks, guys. Happy New Year.
Yep. Thanks. Same to you. That's Landon Swan, co-founder of LikeFolio, breaking down the Southwest negative data points, Kev.
Just